My name is Douglas, and this is my resolution tracker. And today was a pretty good day. I did have a bit of an extra challenge on avoiding sugar. I had picked up some breakfast pastries and coffee for a morning meeting that my boss asked me to get. And not a lot of the pastries were eaten, so they just kind of sat out for most of the day. And a lot of my colleagues went to nibble on a bunch of them, so that ultimately at the end of the day, there was just a third of a scone left. I did manage to pawn that off on one of my colleagues, so I didn't have any today. They also had basically none of the coffee. I had 2 cups of it at the end of the day, and it was still pretty full, so it's kind of a shame. But what can you do? I had an interview actually with one of the sources for one of our feature articles in the magazine, which was pretty neat. I get a chance to write this, and I haven't written an article for our magazine before, but it's nice to be able to have this opportunity. And I'm excited to write up his piece. In fact, that probably can count for writing once a week. Yes, it's for work and it's something that I was going to do otherwise. It isn't the kind of for fun thing, but that wasn't the point of the resolution. The point was to fulfill the creative aspect of at least once a week taking an opportunity to write something. Although I have been ruminating on an idea for a scene in the book that I kind of want to write. So I may take an opportunity this weekend, if not this evening, to write that up and get it out of my head and onto the page. Another thing that sort of fulfilled the spirit of the resolution, even if it didn't necessarily fit the letter, is that earlier this month, boyfriend made me a dinner. He made steak, rice, and broccoli. It was pretty good. And the spirit of the resolution of once a month making dinner for myself is it's a slightly healthier option than the kinds of quick make foods that I normally have for dinner when I'm home, and is cheaper than buying dinner out, which is something that boyfriend and I do quite a bit. So it sort of fit the spirit of it. But that's okay, because today I fulfilled the letter of the resolution by making dinner for myself. I made mac and cheese. Maybe not the healthiest option, but I think that it was a good choice. I don't know if I liked it more than I usually like the Noodles and Company mac and cheese, but I liked it for a different reason, I guess. I made it myself on the stove. I started with a pretty big pot with some oil in it to cook up some onions and garlic. Added flour to make a roux, and I added quite a bit of milk. So normally when I've made like a cheese sauce, I add a little bit so that it provides the base for the sauce, but then I end up with this really sort of thick, gooey cheese. And that's not really what I thought would be satisfying for this. So I added quite a bit of milk. In a separate pot, I made the water to boil the pasta and get that all cooked. And then I added my cheese to the cheese sauce and added spinach to that. So that was a pretty good way of getting a few more vegetables in. Granted, I had basically the same vegetables on my sandwich today, but that was still a good check on that. Added the pasta directly to the sauce, which was a good idea, I think. Typically, I end up adding the sauce later, and I think in some ways I lose the sauce in that, and also it doesn't necessarily coat nicely. So this was a good way to kind of combine everything, and I think it did combine